My name is Holly Carter. I was 36 when I learned that the sister who destroyed my relationship with my parents 5 years earlier had been hiding proof of my innocence the entire time. I learned it in an emergency room at 2:17 in the morning. My phone rang. A doctor from St. Matthew Medical Center asked if I was Holly Carter and whether I was related to Lauren Carter. I almost hung up. Lauren was my younger sister. She was also the reason my parents had stopped speaking to me. 5 years earlier, she accused me of stealing money that was supposed to save our parents' small printing business. Nearly $80,000 disappeared from an account only 3 people could access. Lauren blamed me. My parents believed her. No police investigation, no questions, no chance to explain. My father told me never to come home again, so I did exactly that, for 5 years. Then the doctor said Lauren had been brought in after a serious medical emergency, and the hospital needed information only a close relative might know. My parents were already there. That made no sense. Why call me? I drove to the hospital anyway. When the elevator doors opened, my mother saw me first. Her face went white. My father stood beside her with both hands clenched around his jacket. Neither of them said hello. Then a nurse approached me carrying Lauren's personal belongings. Her phone, her wallet, a ring of keys, and a thick brown envelope with my full name written across the front. Holly Carter. My mother's eyes locked onto it. She whispered one word. Don't. That was when I understood something I should have understood years earlier. They were not afraid of losing Lauren. They were afraid of what I was about to discover. Before I tell you what happened next, if you're enjoying this story so far, please take a second to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It truly helps this channel reach more people who love emotional family stories like these. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in her place? I'm curious to read your thoughts. I opened the envelope. The first page was a bank statement dated 5 years earlier, and the name beside the missing $80,000 was not mine. It was my father's. I could not breathe. My father, the man who had looked me straight in the eye and called me a thief. The man who told every member of our family that I had destroyed everything he had spent his life building. His name was printed beside the transfer, not mine. My fingers tightened around the papers. There were more, several more. I looked up. My father had gone pale. My mother looked as if she wanted to snatch the envelope out of my hands. Nobody spoke. The silence hurt more than shouting ever could. A nurse stepped into the hallway. Miss Carter, the doctor needs to speak with you. Not your parents. You. I followed her without looking back. The consultation room was small. Quiet. Too quiet. The doctor folded his hands on the desk. Miss Carter, your sister listed you as her emergency contact only 3 months ago. I frowned. That can't be right. We haven't spoken in 5 years. He nodded. I understand. But she updated her medical records herself. She specifically requested that if she was ever unable to make decisions, someone should contact you before anyone else. I stared at him. Why would Lauren do that? The doctor hesitated. She also left instructions that this envelope must be given only to you. No one else, not even your parents. I thanked him and walked back into the empty waiting room. My parents were gone. I finally sat down and opened the rest of the documents. The first pages were copies of bank transfers. The money had never entered any account connected to me. Instead, it had been divided into several payments sent to a company I had never heard of. The signatures authorizing every transfer belonged to my father, but something felt wrong. My father was careful with money, painfully careful. He checked every receipt, balanced every statement. He would never steal nearly $80,000 without a reason. Then I found another document. It was a loan agreement, 5 years old. My father's signature appeared again. The amount made my stomach twist. $350,000, secured against my parents' home. Default status, past due. Everything suddenly began fitting together. The missing money had not been stolen because of greed. Someone had been desperately trying to keep something from collapsing. But what? The answer appeared on the next page. The loan had not been taken out for our family's printing business. It had been used to guarantee debts belonging to another company. A company whose owner was not my father. It belonged to Lauren's husband. Only one problem. 5 years ago, Lauren wasn't married. She wasn't even engaged. I turned the page again. The agreement had been amended 2 years later after a civil marriage. Someone had quietly added Lauren's future husband to the debt, which meant the financial disaster that destroyed my family had been growing long before anyone blamed me. My pulse quickened. There was only one item left inside the envelope: a handwritten letter. Lauren's handwriting was unmistakable. Across the top, she had written only one sentence: "If you are reading this, then I finally ran out of time." I unfolded the letter with trembling hands. The paper was worn, as if Lauren had opened it dozens of times before finally sealing it. The first sentence hit me like a punch. "Holly, Dad didn't lie to protect himself. He lied to protect me." I read it again, then again. Nothing made sense. Lauren continued, "I stole the money, every single dollar. Not because I wanted a better life, because I believed I could save someone I loved. Instead, I destroyed everyone who ever loved me." My chest tightened. 5 years. 5 years of silence. 5 years of birthdays spent alone. 5 years without hearing my mother's voice. Because of this, I kept reading. Lauren wrote that she had secretly loaned the money to a man who promised incredible returns through a new commercial property project. She believed they would double the investment within weeks. She wanted to surprise our parents by paying off every debt they had hidden from us. Instead, the man disappeared. The money vanished. The business began collapsing almost immediately. Dad found out before anyone else. He wanted to call the police, until he realized the money was already gone. And Lauren confessed everything. She begged him not to turn her in. She said prison would destroy her life forever. Dad made a different choice, the worst choice of his life. He asked one question: would Holly survive this? Lauren answered yes. She always survives. I stopped reading. My vision blurred. That sentence hurt more than every accusation. She always survives. As if surviving somehow made betrayal acceptable. As if being the stronger daughter meant becoming the disposable one. The letter continued. Dad forged documents. He deleted security records. He convinced everyone the evidence pointed to me. Mom believed him because she couldn't bear losing both daughters, so she chose to lose one. Me, not because she thought I deserved it, because she thought I could handle it. I laughed. A quiet laugh, the kind that comes when pain is simply too large for tears. 5 years. Every family holiday, every birthday, every Christmas morning. They had all known, every one of them. Lauren admitted she wanted to tell the truth hundreds of times. She even drove to my apartment twice. Both times she saw me through the window, working late, eating dinner alone, laughing with new friends. She convinced herself I had rebuilt my life. She decided confessing would only destroy it again. So she stayed silent. Cowardice became habit. Habit became years. Near the end of the letter, her handwriting changed. It shook. If you're reading this, then I'm probably no longer able to hide anything. There is something else. Something you still don't know. Something Dad never discovered either. The missing $80,000 was only the beginning. The real reason our family fell apart wasn't the money. It was what happened after. I frowned. There was another folded sheet tucked behind the letter. Not handwritten, typed. A legal document. At the top was the logo of a law firm. Beneath it were 6 words that made my heart stop. Notice of Beneficial Ownership Investigation. I stared at the document for nearly a minute before I realized I had stopped blinking. Beneficial Ownership Investigation. I had worked in corporate accounting long enough to understand exactly what those words meant. This was not about a simple family argument. This involved hidden assets, real companies, real money, real crimes. My hands turned cold. The notice had been addressed to my father, not to Lauren, not to me. The investigation had started almost 4 years ago, which meant my father had lived with this secret for years without telling anyone. Attached to the notice was a list of companies. The first name meant nothing. Neither did the second. The third nearly made me drop the papers. Carter Print Solutions. Our family business. I whispered to myself. Impossible. The company had been dissolved years ago. At least that was what everyone believed. I turned another page. The business had never actually closed. It had quietly changed ownership. 3 times. Each transfer happened within a few months of the scandal that destroyed my relationship with my family. Someone had carefully buried the original company beneath layers of paperwork. and someone had made a fortune doing it. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. I looked up. My father was walking toward me alone. He looked 20 years older than the last time I had seen him. His shoulders had collapsed. His confident walk was gone. He stopped several feet away. Neither of us spoke. Finally, he looked at the documents in my lap. "You found them." It wasn't a question. I nodded. His eyes filled with regret. Not tears. Something heavier. The kind of regret that settles into a person after living with the same mistake every day for years. "I'm sorry, Holly," the words landed softly. Too softly. 5 years of silence could not disappear inside 2 words. I looked directly at him. "Did you know I was innocent?" He closed his eyes. "Yes." "Did Mom know?" Another pause. "Yes." "Did the rest of the family know?" Eventually, every answer felt like another door closing. I swallowed hard. So every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every birthday, every family reunion. You all knew, and nobody called me, nobody defended me, nobody even asked how I was surviving. He couldn't answer, because there was no answer, only shame. I slowly held up Lauren's letter. "She says you sacrificed me to protect her. Was that really your plan?" He shook his head. "No, my plan was to fix everything before you ever found out. I thought I could recover the money, save the business, clear your name. I believed it would take weeks, then months passed, then years. Every year it became harder to admit what I'd done. I hated hearing that, not because it was cruel, because it sounded believable. One terrible decision, followed by another, then another, until the lie became the family's foundation. I picked up the investigation notice. "What is this?" His face changed instantly. "Fear, real fear. You shouldn't have that. Answer me." He lowered his voice. "That company wasn't stolen from us. It was stolen through us." I frowned. "What does that mean?" Before he could answer, 2 people wearing dark business suits entered the waiting area. One of them looked directly at my father. "Mr. Carter, we've been looking for you." The woman opened a leather folder and placed a document in front of him. My father didn't even read it. He already knew what it was. The man beside her finally looked at me. "Miss Carter, we believe you may be the legal owner of everything they were trying to hide." The words didn't register at first. Legal owner, everything. I looked from the investigator to my father, then back again. There had to be a mistake. "I have no idea what you're talking about." The woman pulled another document from her folder. "You will." She handed it to me. It was a notarized shareholder agreement, dated 6 years earlier. 1 year before my family disowned me. At the bottom of the page was my signature, or at least something that looked exactly like it. I froze. "I never signed this." The investigator nodded. "We know. The signature was forged. But under state law, the ownership remained valid because no transfer was ever legally challenged." I slowly looked through the pages. 90%. I supposedly owned 90% of Carter Print Solutions. Not my father, not Lauren, me. My father whispered my name. "Holly, please listen before you judge me." I looked at him. "I judged you 5 years ago. Tonight, I'm just trying to understand." He rubbed both hands across his face. "When our business started failing, our accountant told me to protect the company from creditors. He suggested transferring ownership to someone with no debts and no legal exposure. It was never meant to be permanent. I refused. I wouldn't forge my daughter's signature. Then everything collapsed. Lauren lost the money. The bank demanded payment. Suppliers threatened lawsuits. Employees wanted answers. I panicked. The accountant said it was the only way to keep the business alive. So you forged my name." He nodded without lifting his eyes. "Yes, but I swear I intended to fix it. I only needed time." The investigator interrupted. "Mr. Carter did more than transfer ownership. After the transfer, someone began using the company to move money through several shell corporations." My father immediately shook his head. "Not me. I never touched those accounts." The woman watched him carefully. "We believe you. Which is why we're here. Someone else controlled the company after the transfer. Someone with access to your family." I felt my stomach tighten. "Lauren?" The investigator answered without hesitation. "We don't know. Not yet. But every fraudulent transaction required someone who knew the original ownership structure. Someone inside the family. My father slowly lowered himself into a chair. He looked defeated, not frightened, broken. He spoke so quietly I almost missed it. I destroyed my family trying to save it. No one answered, because no one could. The investigator handed me one final folder. Miss Carter. Everything changes with this. Inside were emails, bank records, corporate filings, hundreds of pages. Someone had spent years building the case. The first email was from our former accountant. The second was from Lauren. The third stopped me cold. It had been sent just 8 days ago from my mother's email address. The subject line was only 4 words. Holly must never know. I could barely see the screen. My mother's email address, my mother's words. Holly must never know. The message had been sent to our former accountant and copied to Lauren. My hands shook as I opened it. The first sentence shattered the last excuse I had left for her. If Holly learns the company is legally hers, she will uncover every transfer we approved after Richard signed the papers. Richard, my father, not Dad, not my husband. Richard, cold, distant, businesslike. The email continued. Lauren cannot survive another investigation. We have already lost too much. If we have to sell the house, then we sell it. But Holly can never discover the ownership documents. I looked up slowly. My father was staring at the floor. His face told me everything. He had never seen this email. You didn't know. He lifted his head. Know what? I turned the laptop toward him, read it. His eyes moved across the screen. Halfway through the message, his breathing became uneven. No. He whispered it to himself. No. She promised me. She promised she ended everything years ago. I had never seen my father look afraid. Not even when the business failed. Not even when he buried his own reputation to protect Lauren. This was different. This was betrayal. The investigator spoke carefully. Mr. Carter, your wife has been communicating with the accountant for almost 5 years. Most of those emails were deleted. We recovered them from backup servers. Dad looked at her in disbelief. Margaret handled everything after I had my heart attack. Heart attack. I blinked. Nobody had told me. Not one relative. Not one family friend. Not even the neighbors who had watched me grow up. While I had spent 5 years believing my family hated me, they had lived through one crisis after another. And still, nobody called. The investigator continued. After your medical leave, your wife assumed control of all financial records. She also approved every ownership transfer after that date. My father's shoulders slumped. I trusted her. He sounded like a man speaking to himself, not to us. I trusted my own wife. The woman nodded. We believe you did. Then she turned to me. Miss Carter, there is something else you should see. She opened another folder. Inside were property records, corporate tax filings, insurance policies. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. My forged ownership had become the legal foundation for millions of dollars in business assets. Warehouses, commercial equipment, investment accounts, a distribution contract. All of it still legally traced back to me. Not because anyone wanted me to have it, because they forgot one simple thing. They never obtained my real signature. Every transaction after the forgery rested on a document that could be challenged. Years of financial maneuvering, built on one lie. One forged name, mine. The investigator met my eyes. If you contest the original transfer, every transaction made afterward could be reviewed by the court. Everyone. The room fell silent. Dad finally looked at me. Not with authority, not with expectation, only regret. Holly, I know I don't deserve to ask anything from you, but if you do this, your mother will lose everything. Lauren, too. I held his gaze. For 5 years, I lost everything. Neither of them stopped to ask whether I deserved it. He closed his eyes. You're right. You are absolutely right. At that exact moment, the operating room doors opened. A surgeon stepped into the hallway. Everyone stood. The surgeon looked directly at me. Miss Carter, your sister is awake. She says there is only one person she'll tell the whole truth to. You. Miss Carter, your sister is asking for you, and only you. The surgeon waited. My father didn't move, neither did I. 5 years ago, I would have run into that room without thinking. Now every step felt earned. Every breath carried the weight of everything that had been taken from me. The nurse opened the door. Lauren was awake, barely. Her face was pale. Dark circles framed her eyes. The confident younger sister I remembered was gone. She looked exhausted, like someone who had spent years trying to outrun herself. She noticed me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, "You came." I pulled a chair closer. "I'm here. Don't waste it." She nodded weakly. I deserved that. Probably much worse. Silence settled between us again. Then she reached beneath her blanket and handed me a small silver key. My apartment. Locker 12, Union Safe Storage. Everything is there. Every receipt, every email, every recording, everything Mom hid. I frowned. "Your mother." She closed her eyes. "No. Our mother." The correction hurt more than I expected. Lauren drew a slow breath. Dad believed he was protecting me. He wasn't. Mom figured out what really happened within days. She never told him. I stared at her. "What are you saying?" She swallowed. "The $80,000. I really did move it. But I wasn't alone." Mom knew exactly where it went. She introduced me to the man who promised the investment. I felt the room tilt. No. That made no sense. Why would Mom do that? Lauren's eyes filled with tears. Because the investment was never for me. It was for her. She had already borrowed money without Dad knowing. She thought one successful deal would erase every debt before he discovered them. When everything collapsed, she panicked. Dad found out I had transferred the money. He blamed himself for trusting me. He wanted to confess everything. Mom stopped him. She said the family needed one villain. One person everyone could blame. She chose you. I couldn't speak. Lauren continued. Dad never knew Mom had planned the investment. He believed I acted alone. He carried the guilt because he forged your signature. Mom let him believe that. She let both of us carry her mistakes. I slowly stood. "No. You're protecting her. Just like before." Lauren shook her head. "Locker 12. You'll see. Every meeting, every bank transfer, every message. She saved everything, insurance, against everyone, even Dad." My heartbeat pounded inside my ears. Why keep evidence against herself? Lauren gave a tired smile. Because Mom never trusted anyone. Not even family, especially family. She recorded conversations, copied documents, saved passwords. She always said information was worth more than money. The heart monitor began beeping faster. A nurse stepped closer. "Miss Carter, she needs to rest." Lauren reached for my wrist. "One last thing." I leaned closer. She whispered so quietly, I almost missed it. "Don't let Mom get to the locker first. She already knows I told you." Before I could ask how, the hospital room door opened. My mother walked in. She wasn't crying anymore. She wasn't frightened. She looked directly at the silver key in my hand. Then she smiled. A calm smile. The kind that appears only when someone believes they're still one step ahead. She spoke softly. "Holly, before you decide who to trust, there's something Lauren never told you about the night you signed those papers." She looked directly at me. Not at Lauren, not at the nurse. Only me. There was no panic in her face. No shame, just calculation. The same expression she wore every time she balanced the family's checkbook or negotiated with suppliers. Calm, measured, dangerous. She folded her hands. "Holly, you deserve the truth. All of it." Lauren turned her head away. "Don't listen to her." Mom ignored her. "You keep saying your father forged your signature. That's true. But he wasn't the first person to do it." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" She took one careful step closer. "The papers transferring ownership to you weren't signed after the business started failing. They were signed months earlier." I shook my head. "That's impossible. I never signed anything." "Exactly. You didn't, but someone else did." My pulse quickened. Mom reached into her purse and removed an old photograph. She handed it to me. It had been taken 6 years earlier during my parents' anniversary party. I remembered that evening, the laughter, the music, the family photo. Then I noticed what Mom was pointing at. I was sitting at the dining table, signing birthday cards for relatives. My signature appeared over and over, on envelopes, on greeting cards, on gift tags. My mother spoke quietly. Your father never learned to copy your handwriting. I did. The room became perfectly silent. Lauren covered her face. Mom continued. You practiced your signature every year because you thought it looked too childish. You filled entire notebooks. I kept them. You left greeting cards in the kitchen. You signed Christmas presents, birthday checks, thank you notes. You never imagined someone would study every curve of your handwriting. I felt sick. She wasn't confessing, she was explaining, as though this had all been another difficult household decision. Why, I whispered. Why me? She answered immediately. Because everyone trusted you. Banks trusted you. Suppliers trusted you. Lawyers trusted you. Your father was already drowning in debt. Lauren was reckless. You were the only name that still had value. Every word cut deeper. You stole my identity, she nodded. Yes, I thought it would only be temporary, until the business recovered. Then Lauren lost the investment. Everything spiraled. Your father blamed himself. Lauren blamed herself. I blamed circumstance. But once everyone believed you had stolen the money, the paperwork became invisible. No one questioned anything anymore. The silence after that sentence was unbearable. I finally understood. I had never been chosen because I was guilty. I had been chosen because I was believable, reliable, responsible, the perfect person to sacrifice. The surgeon quietly motioned for the nurses to leave. Even they sensed this conversation had become something far bigger than a hospital visit. I looked at my mother. For 5 years. You watched me lose everything. She nodded once. I did. You knew I could barely pay rent. Yes. You knew nobody in the family would answer my calls. Yes. You knew Grandma died, and nobody told me until months later. For the first time. Her composure cracked. A single tear rolled down her cheek. I never wanted that. I laughed bitterly. But you accepted it. She lowered her head. Yes, because by then, telling the truth would have destroyed all of us. I took a slow breath. No, it would have destroyed your lie. There's a difference. She didn't answer. She couldn't. The investigator stepped into the room carrying his phone. Miss Carter, we have a problem. He looked directly at me. Someone entered Union Safe Storage 23 minutes ago. Locker 12 has already been opened. Lauren's eyes flew open. No, the investigator continued. Security stopped the person before they could leave, but they weren't alone. There was another locker. Number 13. Registered under a completely different name. He turned the phone toward me. The security camera image loaded. The woman opening locker 13 wasn't my mother. It wasn't Lauren. It was my Aunt Susan. The same aunt who had comforted me after my parents disowned me. The same woman who told me every year that she wished the family could heal. The same woman who had secretly become executor of my grandmother's estate 2 years earlier. And in her hands, she was carrying the original folder marked in thick black letters, Holly Carter, original will, Susan. Out of everyone in my family, Susan had been the only person who never completely shut me out. She called me on my birthday. She sent Christmas cards. When Grandma died, she was the one who quietly mailed me a copy of the obituary because nobody else thought I deserved to know. I trusted her, completely, and now she was carrying a folder labeled with my name. The investigator locked his phone. Security has detained her. She refuses to answer any questions without her attorney. Lauren grabbed my hand. Go. Now. Don't let her leave before you get there. The surgeon stepped in. Miss Carter, your sister needs rest. Lauren ignored him. Please, Holly. Everything Grandma left behind is inside that folder. Not just the will, everything. I looked at her. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I only found out 3 weeks ago. I thought I still had time. She closed her eyes. I was wrong. 40 minutes later, I walked into Union Safe Storage with the investigator beside me. 2 uniformed officers stood near the office entrance. Susan sat quietly in a plastic chair. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She simply looked tired. When she saw me, she managed a weak smile. You've grown stronger. I didn't return the smile. Why were you taking my file? She looked at the officers. May I speak with Holly alone? The investigator shook his head. No, she sighed. Fair enough. Then she looked directly at me. Your grandmother asked me to protect it. Until the right time. I felt another wave of disbelief. Protect it from whom? Susan answered without hesitation. Your mother. The storage manager placed 2 sealed evidence boxes on the counter. Locker 12, Locker 13. Both had been secured before Susan could remove anything else. The investigator broke the seals. The first box belonged to Lauren, exactly as she had described. Bank statements, audio recorders, external hard drives, handwritten journals, years of evidence. The second box was different. Old, dusty. Inside lay a leather portfolio, a thick envelope, 3 notebooks, and a smaller envelope addressed in elegant handwriting, for Holly. Only after Margaret tells her the truth. I recognized the handwriting instantly. Grandma. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first page wasn't a letter. It was a notarized copy of Grandma's final will. I skipped straight to the final section. My eyes stopped. Everything I own that remains outside the family trust shall pass to my eldest granddaughter, Holly Carter. Not equally, not shared, entirely, I frowned. That couldn't be right. Grandma loved all of us. Why would she leave everything to me? The answer was waiting in the letter beneath the will. My dearest Holly, if you are reading this, then I failed to keep my family together. I prayed this day would never come, but I prepared for it anyway. Because I knew your mother better than anyone. She is my daughter, and I know exactly how fear changes her. My grandmother wrote that years before the business collapsed, she had quietly discovered Margaret had begun making secret investments without telling my father. Nothing illegal, just reckless. Every time one investment failed, another loan followed, another promise, another risk. Grandma confronted her. Margaret swore she would stop. She never did. Instead, she became desperate to recover what had already been lost. Then came the line that changed everything. The missing $80,000 was never the beginning. It was the final attempt to hide nearly 12 years of financial deception. I looked up from the page. 12 years, not 5. Not one bad decision. An entire decade. Susan quietly spoke. Your grandmother wanted to expose everything while she was alive. Your father begged her not to. He believed your mother would confess herself. She never did. Instead, the family buried one lie beneath another until no one remembered where the truth ended. The investigator carefully opened the last notebook. His expression changed immediately. Miss Carter, you need to see this. Every page contained dates, bank accounts, property purchases, company names. But one column stood out. Beneficiary. Every single asset that Margaret secretly acquired over 12 years listed the same future beneficiary, Holly Carter. Not because she intended to give them to me, because every purchase had been hidden behind the forged identity she created. Legally, they were mine. The investigator slowly closed the notebook. Then he looked directly at me. Miss Carter, when court begins next month, you won't just be a witness. You'll be the central plaintiff. And whether you want it or not, your own mother will be sitting on the opposite side of the courtroom. The first court hearing lasted less than 20 minutes. 20 minutes. That was all it took for my family's carefully constructed version of history to begin collapsing. I sat beside my attorney. Across the courtroom sat my mother, Margaret Carter. For the first time in my life, she looked small. Not because of her appearance, because every confident answer she had rehearsed was being dismantled by documents she never expected anyone to find. The judge adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Carter, did you authorize these transfers? My mother answered calmly. No. The prosecutor slid another exhibit onto the screen. An email, another, then another. Each carried her personal login. Each approved a different transaction. Each ended with the same sentence. Proceed as discussed. Her attorney objected. The judge overruled him. The room fell silent. I watched my mother realize something. The evidence wasn't coming from Lauren or my father. It was coming from years of her own decisions. Decision after decision, lie after lie. My father testified next. He admitted forging my signature. He admitted allowing everyone to believe I had stolen the money. He accepted responsibility without trying to excuse himself. When my attorney asked why he never corrected the lie, he He lowered his head. Because every month I believed I could fix it before Holly found out. Instead, I buried her deeper. The courtroom remained quiet. Nobody interrupted. Nobody judged. His shame spoke louder than words ever could. Then it was my turn. I walked to the witness stand, placed my hand on the Bible, promised to tell the truth. For the first time in 5 years, someone actually asked for my version, not what people believed, not what they assumed, my version. I spoke for nearly an hour, about the day my father told me to leave, about the calls nobody answered, about eating ramen for weeks because losing my family's business also meant losing my job, about missing grandma's funeral, about pretending every holiday was just another ordinary day because admitting the truth hurt too much. When I finished, I looked directly at my mother. She couldn't meet my eyes. Then the prosecutor introduced the final piece of evidence. Lauren's recordings. There were dozens, conversations, arguments, phone calls, years of them. One recording filled the courtroom. It was my mother's voice, clear, steady. If Holly knows the company is legally hers, everything falls apart. We have no choice. She can survive this, Lauren answered quietly. But she'll never forgive us. My mother's reply froze every person in the room. Forgiveness isn't what keeps this family alive. Silence does. The recording ended. No one moved. Even the judge waited several seconds before speaking. Mrs. Carter, do you dispute the authenticity of this recording? My mother slowly stood. She looked at my father, then at Lauren. Finally, at me. No. Her voice was barely audible. I don't. Tears rolled down Lauren's face. Dad covered his eyes. I felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction. Just an overwhelming sadness for the family we could have been. The judge announced a recess. People began leaving the courtroom. My mother remained seated. She looked older than she had that morning. As I walked past her, she quietly called my name, Holly. I stopped. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't ask for another chance. She only said one sentence. Your grandmother was right. Fear destroyed everything I loved. I nodded once. No, not fear. The lies you chose because of it. Then I walked out of the courtroom without looking back, for the first time in 5 years. I wasn't leaving my family. I was leaving their version of my story behind forever. The final judgment was entered 6 weeks later. The court declared every transfer made through the forged ownership structure invalid. The remaining assets were returned to their lawful status. The legitimate creditors were paid through a court-supervised process. The businesses built on deception were dissolved. No shortcuts, no miracles, just the slow work of justice. My father accepted responsibility for forging my signature. The judge acknowledged that his actions had begun with desperation rather than greed. It did not erase what he had done, but it mattered. He received consequences under the law. So did my mother. Years of financial deception, fraudulent filings, false statements. She no longer had anyone willing to carry her lies. Not my father, not Lauren, not me. Lauren recovered slowly. Her first months after leaving the hospital were spent meeting investigators, attorneys, and therapists, instead of hiding from them. One afternoon she came to my house carrying nothing except a small cardboard box. Inside were photographs from our childhood, our school drawings, birthday cards, letters I had written to her when we were little girls. Mom had hidden them in the attic after throwing me out. Lauren placed the box on my kitchen table. I don't expect forgiveness. I only wanted you to have your life back. For the first time in years, I believed she meant every word. Forgiveness did not happen that day. Trust did not magically return. Some things cannot be rebuilt with apologies. Only with time. Sometimes not even then. Months later, my father asked if we could have coffee. Just coffee. No lawyers, no family, no excuses. We sat together for almost 2 hours. There were long silences. He looked older than I remembered. Not because of age, because guilt had finally stopped hiding behind pride. When we stood to leave, he quietly said, "You deserved a father who asked one more question before believing the worst." I answered honestly, I did. Neither of us cried. We simply accepted the truth. My relationship with my mother never recovered. I visited her once after everything was over. She apologized. Not for choosing Lauren, not for ruining my reputation. She apologized for believing she could control the consequences forever. That told me everything I needed to know. I wished her peace. Then I walked away. Without anger, without revenge, without hatred, just boundaries. The strongest ones I had ever built. A year later, I reopened Carter Print Solutions. Not as the old family business, as something entirely new. Some former employees returned. Others had found different lives. The name stayed. The culture changed. Honesty came before profit. People before appearances. Every new employee heard the same sentence during orientation. The truth always costs less than a lie. That sentence hung in the reception area, where every visitor could read it. I kept Grandma's letter framed in my office. Not because it reminded me of betrayal, because it reminded me that one person telling the truth can outlive years of deception. People sometimes ask whether I regret fighting my own family. I always answer the same way. I never fought my family. I fought the lie that stole my family. There is a difference. Looking back now, I understand something I couldn't see 5 years earlier. Being the one who survives does not mean you should be the one who sacrifices everything. Loving your family should never require abandoning yourself. The day I finally chose my own dignity was the day I stopped losing the people who truly mattered. I found peace, not because justice erased the past, but because it gave me permission to stop carrying it. Thank you for staying with me until the end of my story. If it touched your heart, please subscribe because I share a brand new family story here every single day. And if you're not ready to leave yet, open the next story on your screen. I have a feeling it will stay with you just as long.